Hello, friends and lovers. I'm Kamala Devi, as you probably know, and this is my intimate update. I like to stay in touch with those I've met around the world as I've been traveling a lot lately, and I like to keep current about my journeys, both the outer journeys. I go to sacred sites around the world and we do these shamanic rituals, but also the inner journey. Like, I want to share with you some of what's mm, like moving at the edge of my awareness. And it's been really amazing and intense, especially since I just got back from Israel and summer is my travel season. So, coming off of like Israel's this flourishing counterculture tribe, like really rich, diverse group, um, and taking some time to drop in with the family. Actually, Michael and Devin, because Devin's kind of going through this like blossoming from 12 years old. He's really coming into his young manhood. And Michael's taking him on like a boys' trip in Spain. There's the Caminos. They're doing a pilgrimage together. And they just left this morning. And so, they'll be traveling and I'll meet up with them after Montreal and Berlin. And then we're going to do a family vacation, a couple of family like deep dives, which you've probably heard about, where I'm leading the integration between the Mystery School, the International School of Temple Arts, and we're calling it a family fusion, but like the tribal new paradigm of what's coming through the next generation, and really curious to see what this experiment yields, because we're focusing on the intersection of like what the life force energy says as it moves through the youth, as it moves through our inner children as well as our outer children, and and reparents us. And so just really interested in listening to the wisdom that's coming through. More on that soon. Really, what I wanted to share is that in the midst of all this creative energy and this summer travels, that a big part of what I'm getting is how to balance the multidimensional nature. Like, we all have our physical body and health needs, and then there's the energy body and the emotional body, and if you're attuned subtly, there's the etheric body and the dream body, and like we're really multidimensional. And when you like have awakenings at all these different levels, like how to actually like integrate that and keep it all congruent and healthy in communication. And that's a dance, it's such a dance. It's one that I'm constantly like, I'm dancing and misstepping, and like it's really learning the dance steps to all the bodies. And it's really, it's also interesting. I am, I don't know, 20 years ago when I was in a yoga ashram, which is where I got my name, it was the Shivananda school. So it was more of a classic lineage. The teaching was like, I'm not my body, and it's like, there was more of an emphasis on the soul and the greater non-physical self. And yeah, there was teachings about different bodies, but it was very much like, I'm not that. And I am that. And one of the deep practices that I have right now, as I'm embracing all of who I'm experiencing myself to be and not who I think I am, one of the deep practices is to notice, the places where I feel the most resistance, like where I'm like, oh no, that's not me, or oh no, because those are the places where I have that resistance has some shadow, and it points to, oh, that means I'm attached to that, the opposite. And wherever there's attachment is also an area of not being free, not being open to the full spectrum of who we are, because we think we are that. So it's been, almost this paradoxical like interest in what is it that I think I'm not, because that's where I need to grow. It's also helped me, my empathetic imagination, and as an empath, really, really connecting with others, especially those that are really different. Yeah, I'm working right now with some of the youth in this family program as I'm growing it, and I'm just appreciating how different their parents are. Like, we all have, like influences from our mother, father, or our ancestors, and how incredibly varied those influences can be. It can be such a contrast. And that idea of like forming self in reaction to, as opposed to being like, ooh, how can I take the gifts of that and be more like, mother, father, or so, I'm doing this dance, and some of it's personal growth, like really cultivating the personality. Some of it's like shamanic ego death, letting go of, the identity entirely and dissolving into nothing. And some of it's, just as an artist, the creation and the performance of who we are, and being that in the world. I have 2 books right now that are both with publishers. So I've got 2 separate publishers, Sex Shamans with Inner Traditions and 52 Fridays with Cleese. And they're both in this pre-publication process, which is just so thrilling. And I'm aware of like the performance of self in the storytelling of the book, which is actually a shamanic craft, storytelling. And I love, writing as a shamanic straddling of worlds. You're in the world of form and the words on the page, and the downloading of like, here's a manuscript is so solid compared to like the fantasies, the ideas, the memories, the creativity that comes through. And so being from that non-physical self into the world of form in book. And then, just so fascinating to see when the books are out there and they're beyond me, what kind of, I guess, synergy happens between the reader and the book, and whether that's questions or projections, or, what is that relationship. I know some of my greatest teachers in my life have been books, and particularly the authors of them, and those are deep relationships. So I'm really curious to see what impact they're going to have in the world, and I'll be in the next few months in the editing process. Again, they're coming out in 2020, so it's, writing is long game. But I am, interested in working with you if you're an author and you want help getting your book done. I have a great program for that. And if you want to work with me around the world with one of these transformative retreats, I will post my calendar. Like, I won't bore you now. I can hardly keep track of where I'm going to be when. But I will post my next retreats, and I'd love to stay in touch with you and hear what else you're interested in, especially because now I'm between books. I don't know what, like, I'm wanting to serve. I'm wanting to be around my son more. And so I'm curious about my next book. And if you have any, like, feedback for me about what's alive and what you want to hear about, I would love, to hear it. And I'd also just love to stay in touch. So thank you for listening and loving, and I'm sending you and your family the biggest, warmest hug. Blessings.